What's up, comic book community? My name is Joe, and you're watching 360 Comics. I've had the idea for this topic for a while now, but I wanted to wait until this video specifically because this is our 181st video here on YouTube, and we're talking about this book right here, Incredible Hulk number 181, the first appearance of fan favorite character Wolverine, one of the most iconic comic books of all time, certainly the most important and valuable sought after book of the Bronze Age of comics. Now, that being said, I've noticed a pattern with comics numbered issue 181, and I'm beginning to think that maybe that number is cursed or blessed, depending on how you look at it. Stay tuned to hear more. If you haven't done so yet, definitely go back and check out our double slab giveaway video from last week, because we'll be giving away these two books right here, Vengeance of Bane number 1, first appearance of Bane, 9.4 white pages, and Daredevil number 170, first appearance of Kingpin in the Daredevil run, also 9.4 white pages. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel, go check out that video, like it, leave a comment on it with an interesting fact about DC and an interesting fact about Marvel for your chance to win. I'll be picking a winner next week, and then we'll get into our December giveaway, which I'm really excited to announce. Good luck. The book sitting next to me really needs no introduction, but just in case you stumbled across this video as someone who is not a comic book collector, this right here is The Incredible Hulk 181, first appearance of Wolverine, and just hands down one of the most quintessential Bronze Age comics, Bronze Age being typically the 1970s into the early 80s. That being said, I have noticed a pattern with issue 181s, both before and after Incredible Hulk number 181, and that is that there are a weird amount of keys that fall into that number. I thought about it a little bit, and not a lot of books get up to issue 181. That being said, a lot of books will get canceled before issue 100. Really only popular runs, popular characters, popular teams will go on and make it all the way to, 200 and beyond. It's going to be the more important characters, that makes sense. Also, I noticed that if it is a monthly publication, issue 181 would come out right around the 15-year mark. So if you take 180 and divide that by 12 months, comes out to 15 exactly, 15 years. So maybe, readership is down at that point and they're, introducing new characters to revitalize. I also looked at the 120 mark and noticed, 120, they introduced, 120 and 121 in X-Men. They introduced Alpha Flight, really popular, team that eventually had its own spin-off, and Amazing Spider-Man, another popular title. 121, 122 was the death of Gwen Stacy and Green Goblin, another really iconic time. Now, that was not at the 15-year mark. That was at the 10-year mark for those. So, maybe every 5 years they try to really throw something in there that's big. I don't know. I'd have to do more research into it. But we're here today to talk about 5 key comic books specifically that have a significant importance in the run. And I wouldn't call all of these major keys, but certainly ones that are significant enough to mention. And they're all numbered issue 181. So let's start off here with the first book. It's the only indie book out of the 5 on the list. We've got Spawn issue number 181. And this was from the 2000s, I believe 2008 this came out. Spawn has been popular for a very long time. The 90s run, Todd McFarlane and his team at Image were the biggest things in the world. Super massive print run on that Spawn issue number 1, but it still holds value because they're pretty much everyone wants to have that book in their collection. That is a kind of a quintessential just comic book in general. That being said, by the 2000s, and even by the mid to late 90s, Spawn readership was down significantly. So there were lower print runs by the time this 2008 issue came out. Now, it's got a cool significance to it. It has Spawn kind of battling his inner demons, according to Key Collector, and really really kind of trying to figure out if he's a force of good or a force of evil. And that is a lot of what the Spawn character is in himself. A battle against himself, his past, his memories, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's a really significant plot point as far as Spawn goes. And due to the fact that this came out in the 2000s, like I said, lower print runs and stuff, it's become a more sought after book and a harder one to find. It doesn't have a ton of value to it. 15-20 bucks, something like that, can probably get you a decent copy of it, but still significant nonetheless. Now, moving on to the next book, we're hopping over to Marvel, and the first Marvel book on the list is Strange Tales number 181, you guessed it. And this is the second appearance of Gamora and the third appearance of Pip the Troll. Now, what I think is more significant than that, it names the character Gamora. She is unnamed in her first appearance, which I believe is the issue before 180. This is the first time that she's named. The character's developed a little bit more. And that being said, she's become a huge character in the MCU with the success of Guardians of the Galaxy and, her time with Thanos as well. So, this is a big book, despite it being a second appearance. The fact that it's got a great cover, which, who does that cover? Starlin, maybe? Just really, really helps the book. And, this was not a huge key prior to the MCU. I'm sure people did pick it up, but at the same time, Gamora has exploded in popularity and will be back pretty soon for the third installment, the final installment of Guardians of the Galaxy. So, good one to look out for if you're ever looking through some Bronze Age stuff. This one came out shortly after Hulk 181. Moving on to the next book on the list, it's also a Marvel key, this time Daredevil number 181. And this is probably my favorite book on this list because it is a classic Frank Miller Daredevil book, and it features the death of Elektra. Now, most of the time in comic books, deaths aren't super significant because, the characters often come back. And in fact, Elektra does come back, I think 9 issues later or something like that, in issue 190. So, death is not super significant. We've seen characters be revitalized months, years, even decades later in the situation with Jason Todd. But nonetheless, some deaths definitely hold specific value. This one, not only is this, a really, really classic run by Frank Miller, but also this is kind of one of the first times that a really major centric character was killed off. Now, I should say one of the first. It was not nearly as frequent back in, 1979, 1980 when this book came out, as opposed to, during the 90s and 2000s when characters are killed off on a very regular basis. This is not Ben Reilly getting killed off for the 30th time. This is, a character who was introduced a handful of issues before. She's in 168, so, probably about a year prior. The Frank Miller Daredevil run is just so iconic. So this book holds some pretty nice value as an issue 181. Now, these last two books on the list, these are the more major keys that go along with this. First up, we've got Avengers 181, and I think this book is undervalued at the price it is, but nonetheless, this is the first appearance of Scott Lang. Now, he does not become Ant-Man until Marvel Premiere 46, 47, I forget what issue exactly, but this is his first appearance just in comics as himself, and this character has really, really exploded in the last decade due to Paul Rudd's portrayal of the character in the MCU, and that being the Ant-Man that has been focused on. We have seen Hank Pym, the original Ant-Man, but it has been more based upon the Scott Lang Ant-Man who took on the mantle in the early 80s, I guess this was. That being said, like I said, I think this book is kind of undervalued as it is now. You know, a lot of times the first appearance of character in costume is worth more than their first appearance overall. But I still think this book should have more value. That being said, you know, it's still a really big key, and with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania coming out in just a few months, you know, there's some potential for this to become an even bigger book in the future. Moving on to our last book, our final book, by far the most expensive one, other than Hulk 181 itself. Also, the oldest book, the only one that predates Hulk 181, and the only DC book on the list. It is Batman, number 181. This is the first appearance of Poison Ivy. And no, it's not just the first Silver Age appearance, because a lot of Batman characters who appeared in the Golden Age have a first Silver Age appearance that has been like deemed the affordable version of their key, because very, very few people can afford the Golden Age first appearance of Two-Face or Clayface or someone else's face, or there's tons of characters that have a first Golden Age appearance. Riddler, for example, and then appeared in the Silver Age once superheroes kind of came back into popularity. Poison Ivy is not one of them. She did not have a Golden Age appearance. This is her first ever appearance. Batman 181. It's an amazing cover. It frequently is missing the centerfold because it is a Batman and Robin pinup in the centerfold, and a lot of people took that out, stuck it up on their wall, and, you know, turned what could be a very, very expensive book into a much more affordable book. But hey, that's how it was, and, you know, things getting destroyed like that and thrown away and all that stuff, you know, that's part of the reason that comics are worth so much nowadays. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. And you can get a more affordable copy if you want to, you know, get a green label one or just a raw that's missing the centerfold. You know, that being said, this is still worth significantly less than a Hulk 181. But it is a very, very iconic Batman character's first appearance. And you know, like all the books on this list, it's pretty interesting that all of these ended up at 181 when I don't know what the percentage of you know, comic runs that get up to 181, but I have to think that it's like less than 5% of runs make it all the way up into the high 100s. So there's comparatively, there's not a lot of 181s out there. I could do a 10-part video series on you know, key issues for issue like 1 or 10 or 7 or whatever, but you know, this is a higher number, so I thought it was kind of interesting that there's all these keys. I hope you like this video. It's a little bit different than the things I normally do, but you know, part of the little celebration of growing this channel and stuff, making it up to 181 videos. When I started this last summer 2021, I had no idea that it would evolve into what it has, but you know, we flew past 2,000 subscribers. We're on our way to 3,000. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, please do it, as well as liking this video, and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about this style of video, because I haven't done too many of these, but they're fun, they're enjoyable to talk about, so you can give your opinion down below if it's something that you'd like to see, or if it's not something that interests you, feel free to let me know as well, but I'd be really surprised if you got to this point if you weren't interested in it. That being said, thank you for watching, and remember, turn the page, wash your hands.